Prior to the beginning of the school year, you'll spend a lot of time planning and organizing your classroom. And there's a number of things to keep in mind as you are setting up your prepared environment. One thing to consider is the lighting. If at all possible, you'd like to have a lot of windows at the children's height so they can see out, and a lot of soft natural light in the classroom. I never had that. I always had fluorescent lighting, but whenever possible, try for that natural lighting. And a spacious, uncluttered room is what we're looking for to support the children. You want to think about the floor covering if you have any control over that. You could have maybe half the classroom tiled and half of it carpeted, or a completely tiled classroom with some nice area rugs so that children can be comfortable when working on the floor. But you want that tiled area for any spills and messes like that happen with art and science in particular. So you want to be sure as you're thinking about your room that you will have created a space that allows for a lot of floor work, because children will work often on the floor, they'll work at tables. We want them to have that flexibility. As we talked about before, you're going to organize the classroom according to subject area. And again, this is simply for organizational purposes, to help organize and order everything for the children and for you. It doesn't mean that the children need to get too stuck on the labels of the different subject areas, but biology materials should be together as much as possible. And if there's a sequence to the materials, you could order them in that sequence on the shelf. But remember, there's not a straightforward sequence to the elementary curriculum. So it's difficult to put that in place throughout the entire classroom. In addition to the shelves for the different subject areas, you may have a number of supply shelves, where children can go to get the supplies they need. You might have a paper supply shelf or sort of an office supply shelf where, paper clips and the hole punch and different sorts of papers and pencils and things are available for the children. Maybe even your classroom toolbox lives on this shelf. But you might also have some other supply shelves. You might have some shelves in the art area that are strictly supplies for the children's artwork. Or in science, you can have supply shelves and even a little chest of drawers to keep the varying little bits of materials for different demonstrations that we need. So as you're considering your room arrangement, also consider the shelves for some of those consumable supplies that will need to be replenished and can be nice to have in one place. As you arrange the classroom, you need to be considering a number of things. You want to be sure that you're not setting the shelves up in a way that there are places where children can sort of hide and not be seen on a regular basis. It's just a recipe for some challenges. In the same way, you don't want to have too much open space that the children feel like they can go running through the classroom, because sometimes that open space is irresistible to children. So take those things into consideration as you're placing furniture throughout the room. As you're setting the tables up, set them up and then pull the chairs out as if someone's sitting in them. Walk around and see if there's enough room between the chair and the shelf, or between that chair and another table, so that you're certain that once the children are there, the arrangement's going to work effectively. Think about how you decorate the classroom. Montessori called her first classrooms children's houses, and she did that intentionally. They are supposed to feel like a home. And in the same way, the elementary classroom should have a home-like feeling. So you should have beautiful, thoughtfully chosen artwork framed on the walls, and a variety of plants and different other artifacts and decorations in the classroom. We don't need the sorts of, bulletin boards sort of materials that you see at some teacher stores. That's not the kind of thing I decorate my living room with. And in the same way, I'm not going to decorate the children's sort of living space in that manner as well. So that's something to consider. We're going to apply an aesthetic a more, mature aesthetic to the decoration of our classroom. We want it to be an inviting and beautiful place for them to work in. We also need to consider the outdoor environment. So if you have an outdoor space right outside your classroom, it needs to be prepared as well. If you've got a potting bench and maybe outdoor equipment available to the children, or a space where they can do their work outside, all of that needs to be given the same sort of thought and preparation. I was never lucky enough to have an outdoor space like that for the children, and that's okay. We managed to get out as much as we could anyway. But think about it. If you have it, it does need to be prepared in the same way you have focused on the interior of your classroom. And then finally, we need to remember, as we're arranging our classroom, that the classroom is one environment for the children, but we also want them to go out to see things in the rest of the world. So that means that we're going to be sure we've got the going out shelf prepared to remind us and the children of this possibility. And we're going to do all the things we need to do to prepare them to be able to go out and experience that broader environment that we know they need. So as we consider the physical environment, there's lots of things to talk about or to work through, depending on your own personal classroom. And certainly the physical environment isn't the only part of the environment we have to consider. So we'll talk more about the other aspects next.